Jake Morrison looked out the window of the space station and watched the new soldiers practice fighting. The station floated near a dead moon at the edge of human space. It was the main place where humans learned how to be soldiers for the big group of planets called the Galactic Defense Coalition. Down in the big training room, 200 human soldiers were doing what the teachers called advanced war games. To Jake, it looked like crazy fighting everywhere. Loud explosions came from the strong training rooms as the new soldiers jumped over walls and shouted like old warriors. Drill Sergeant Lisa Campbell's voice was very loud over the speakers. She told them to move faster, hit harder, and show no mercy to the fake enemies that appeared around them. Jake did not know that an alien ship called Silent Wing had been watching the humans for many weeks. The ship belonged to a race called the Zephyrians. Captain Vexthul and his crew had a job to watch how good humans were at fighting. The humans had joined the big group of planets only 6 months ago. Many alien races still did not trust them or think they were good fighters. The Zephyrians used very good sensors to watch everything. They saw humans throw themselves at what looked like very bad fighting. They watched a soldier named Peter Collins fight 3 fake enemies at the same time. His partner Kate Rodriguez shot big weapons to help him. The weapons looked too powerful to be just for practice. The aliens saw humans climb walls that would be hard for their best athletes. They saw humans survive explosions that should have killed them. The humans kept fighting even when their body readings showed they were very tired and hurt. Lieutenant Commander Zareth was Vexthul's second officer. He watched the human body signs and got very worried. The human hearts beat so fast it would kill most other species. Their stress chemicals were very high, but they kept fighting and seemed to be having fun. The humans seemed to laugh while they fought in wars that looked real and deadly. The Zephyrians had never seen any species train so hard. Their own soldiers practiced very carefully with many safety rules. What they saw humans doing looked like they were getting ready for a real battle that would be bigger than anything ever seen before. The training got worse when the humans started what they called extreme challenges. Sergeant Tony Martinez led a group through what humans called Hell Week. This was 7 days of hard physical and mental tests that pushed the soldiers past what they thought they could do. From their hidden spot, the Zephyrians watched in fear as humans did things that looked like torture. They saw a soldier named Amy Foster carry a hurt teammate for miles across dangerous ground while fake enemies shot at them. They saw Danny Clark come out of a room filled with gas that made people cough and cry. He was stumbling and could barely see, but he asked to do the next exercise right away. The alien watchers wrote down everything they saw. Humans went without sleep, dealt with very hot and cold temperatures, and did physical challenges that seemed made to break their minds. Captain Vexthul sent urgent messages back to the main Zephyrian commanders. His reports said humans seemed to love violence and pain. Their soldier training used cruel methods that broke every galactic rule about how to treat soldiers. The humans seemed to be getting ready for a war that would be more brutal than anything seen before. The worst part came when the Zephyrians saw what humans called combat medical training. They watched a medical student named Carol Thompson work very fast to save the life of soldier Ryan Murphy. His wounds looked very real and bad. The aliens could not tell the difference between the very good fake injuries and real ones. To them, it looked like humans were hurting each other on purpose to practice healing. When Ryan Murphy died during the fake medical emergency, then jumped up moments later laughing and talking about how he did, the Zephyrian watchers almost panicked. They thought humans had either learned how to bring people back to life, or they cared so little about death that they treated it like a small problem. Commander Zareth listened to human talk during the training, but the machines that changed alien language to Zephyrian language had trouble with military slang and excitement. When humans said things like kill the enemy, no mercy, destroy everything, and leave no survivors, the aliens thought they meant it exactly. When Sergeant Campbell shouted, "I want to see blood, sweat, and tears," the aliens thought she really wanted to see violence and pain. The final problem came when the humans began what they called psychological warfare training. The Zephyrians watched humans learn how to resist questioning when captured. They practiced lying and played mind games that seemed designed to break enemy spirits. To the aliens, this proved their worst fears about what humans were really like. Training room was filled with smoke and the sound of fake gunfire. New soldiers crawled through mud under razor wire while explosions went off around them. Sergeant Campbell walked between them, shouting instructions and insults that were meant to make them stronger. The soldiers responded by trying harder and moving faster. Private Kelly Adams was halfway through the obstacle course when a fake grenade exploded near her. The blast knocked her down, but she got up immediately and kept going. Her face was covered in dirt and fake blood, but she was smiling. She reached the end of the course and immediately asked if she could do it again. The Zephyrians, watching this, could not understand why someone would smile after being hurt. In their culture, training was done slowly and carefully. No one ever got hurt during practice. What they saw humans doing looked like real combat, where people were trying to kill each other. During weapons training, the humans used guns that shot energy beams and threw grenades that made huge explosions. The training weapons were designed to feel real, but not actually hurt anyone. But the aliens watching could not tell they were fake. They saw humans shooting at each other with what looked like real weapons and throwing real explosives. Corporal Mike Turner was teaching a group of new soldiers how to use assault rifles. He showed them how to aim, shoot, and reload very quickly. Then he had them practice shooting at moving targets while other soldiers shot back at them. The fake energy beams looked exactly like real ones to the alien sensors. The medical training was even more frightening to watch. Students learned how to treat gunshot wounds, explosions injuries, and chemical burns. They practiced on very realistic fake bodies that bled real-looking blood and made sounds like real people in pain. When the fake patients died, the students would try different treatments to see if they could save them. Dr. Susan Parker was the head medical instructor. She made her students practice surgery while loud music played and lights flashed to simulate working during a battle. The students had to cut open fake bodies and repair fake organs, while instructors yelled at them and set off small explosions nearby. The Zephyrians watched all of this and thought the humans were the most violent species they had ever seen. They believed humans trained by actually hurting each other and that they enjoyed pain and violence. They thought human medical training involved real surgery on real people who were allowed to die for practice. As the training continued day after day, the alien watchers became more and more convinced that humans were preparing for a war that would destroy the galaxy. They saw soldiers learning to fight in space, underwater, and in poisonous atmospheres. They saw humans training to fight aliens, robots, and even other humans. What the Zephyrians did not understand was that humans trained so hard because they wanted to be ready for anything. Human military philosophy was that if you trained for the worst possible situation, then real battles would be easier. The humans laughed and smiled during training because they trusted each other and knew they were getting stronger. But to the aliens watching from their hidden ship, it looked like humans were a species of warriors who lived for battle and trained by fighting real wars against each other. The situation got much worse when the human soldiers started their extreme endurance challenges. Sergeant Tony Martinez led a group through what humans called Hell Week. This was 7 days of hard physical and mental tests that never stopped. The soldiers had to keep going no matter how tired or hurt they became. From their hidden position in space, the Zephyrians watched in complete horror as humans were put through what looked like systematic torture. They saw Soldier Amy Foster carry a wounded teammate for many miles across dangerous ground while fake enemies shot at them from all directions. The woman never stopped moving, even when she was breathing hard and sweating heavily. When she finally reached the safe zone, she immediately volunteered to carry another injured soldier back. The aliens also watched Danny Clark come out of a gas chamber where poisonous smoke made it impossible to breathe or see. He stumbled out, coughing and crying, his face red and swollen. But instead of going to the medical station, he walked directly to Sergeant Martinez and asked what the next challenge would be. The Zephyrians could not understand why someone would volunteer for more pain after suffering so much. Captain Vextul sent more urgent reports back to Zephyrian High Command. His messages described a species that seemed to love violence and suffering. Their military training broke every galactic rule about how soldiers should be treated. The humans appeared to be preparing for a war that would be more brutal and terrible than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The alien observers documented humans going without sleep for days at a time. They watched soldiers march through freezing, cold and burning heat while carrying heavy equipment. They saw humans climb mountains, swim through icy water, and crawl through narrow tunnels filled with obstacles. Every challenge seemed designed to cause pain and break the human spirit. But the soldiers kept smiling and encouraging each other. Private Lisa Morgan was doing her 5th day without sleep when she had to solve complex puzzles while explosions went off around her. Her hands shook from exhaustion and her eyes were red from tiredness, but she never gave up. When she finally solved the puzzle, she cheered and hugged her teammates. The Zephyrians watching this could not understand how someone could be happy. After being tortured for days, the breaking point came when the Zephyrians witnessed what humans called combat medical training. They watched medical trainee Carol Thompson work frantically to save the life of soldier Ryan Murphy. His wounds looked very real and serious. Blood covered his uniform and he was screaming in pain. The aliens could not tell that the injuries were created by very advanced holographic technology. To them, it looked like humans were deliberately hurting each other to practice healing techniques. Carol worked on Ryan for over an hour, using medical tools and techniques that the Zephyrians had never seen before. She cut open his chest, stopped bleeding from multiple wounds, and gave him medicine through tubes in his arms. The whole time, other soldiers watched and took notes, as if this was normal training. When Ryan finally died during the simulation, Carol looked sad but immediately began discussing what she could have done differently. Then something happened that made the alien observers almost panic with fear. Ryan Murphy suddenly sat up, completely healthy, and began laughing with his teammates. He talked about how realistic the fake injuries had felt and gave Carol advice on better ways to treat the simulated wounds. To the Zephyrians, this meant humans had either developed technology to bring people back from death, or they cared so little about dying that they treated it like a game. Commander Zareth listened to human communications during the training exercises, but the translation machines had serious problems with military language and human enthusiasm. When Sergeant Campbell shouted phrases like "kill the enemy," "show no mercy," "destroy everything," and "leave no survivors," the aliens thought she was giving real orders for actual combat. They did not understand that these were just motivational phrases to help soldiers train harder. When Campbell yelled, "I want to see blood, sweat, and tears," the Zephyrians believed she actually wanted to see violence and suffering. They recorded every harsh word and aggressive phrase, building a case that humans were the most violent species in the galaxy. The training got even more frightening when humans began practicing what they called urban warfare. Soldiers moved through fake cities filled with obstacles, traps, and hidden enemies. They had to rescue hostages, defuse bombs, and fight enemies in close quarters. The training was so realistic that even other humans watching from safe areas felt nervous. Corporal Brad Wilson led his team through a building where fake terrorists held fake hostages. The team had to move quietly, communicate without speaking, and attack with perfect timing. When they burst through the doors, their weapons fired energy beams that looked exactly like real laser guns. The fake enemies fell down as if they were really dead, and the fake hostages screamed as if they were really afraid. The Zephyrians watching this exercise believed they were seeing humans practice for real urban combat. They thought the screaming hostages were actually being tortured, and the falling enemies were actually being killed. The fact that everyone got up and did the exercise again only convinced them that humans could somehow revive the dead. Psychological warfare training was the final proof the aliens needed that humans were preparing for galactic conquest. They watched soldiers learn how to resist interrogation when captured by enemies. Instructors used bright lights, loud noises, and verbal threats to break down the students. The soldiers were taught to lie convincingly, hide information, and resist. Even the most extreme questioning techniques. Captain Frank Davis was teaching a class on psychological resistance. He had students sit in chairs while bright lights shone in their faces and loud music played for hours. Other students played the role of enemy interrogators, asking questions and making threats. The goal was to teach soldiers how to protect important information even under extreme stress. The Zephyrians observed all of this and concluded that humans were learning how to torture prisoners and break enemy minds. They saw the bright lights and loud noises as torture devices. They heard the threats and believed humans were practicing real psychological warfare against actual prisoners. What made everything worse was how much the humans seemed to enjoy their training. During break times, soldiers would laugh and joke about the exercises they had just completed. They would compare their performance and challenge each other to do better next time. When someone got hurt during training, their teammates would help them recover and then encourage them to try again. Sergeant Martinez often told his students that pain was just weakness leaving the body. He said that the harder they trained, the easier real combat would be. The soldiers believed this and pushed themselves to their limits every day. They were proud when they completed difficult challenges and disappointed when they failed. Zephyrians interpreted this attitude as proof that humans were addicted to violence and suffering. They believed humans enjoyed pain and sought out dangerous situations for entertainment. In their own culture, avoiding pain and staying safe were the most important goals. They could not understand why anyone would voluntarily put themselves through such terrible experiences. As the days passed, the alien observers became more and more convinced that humanity posed a terrible threat to galactic peace. They documented every exercise, recorded every aggressive phrase, and analyzed every aspect of human military training. Their reports painted a picture of a species so dedicated to warfare that they practiced by actually fighting and dying. The Zephyrians did not understand that human military training was designed to prepare soldiers for the worst possible situations. Humans trained hard because they wanted to protect innocent people and prevent wars from happening. They practiced dangerous scenarios so they would be ready if real danger ever came, but from their hidden ship, watching through sensors that could not distinguish between simulation and reality. The Zephyrians saw only what looked like preparation for the most terrible war in galactic history. Within 3 days, the Zephyrian military was moving fast. Fleet Admiral Kethver put together the biggest battle fleet in Zephyrian history. He was convinced that humans were preparing to conquer the entire galaxy. The war they were planning would make all previous wars look like small fights between children. The fleet had 300 warships, including their most powerful battle cruisers and ships designed to destroy entire planets. Admiral Kethver had convinced the Galactic Defense Coalition that immediate action was necessary. If they did not stop the humans right now, human aggression would spread throughout the galaxy like a deadly disease. Jake Morrison was looking at training schedules in his office when Lieutenant Ben Harrison burst through the door with terrible news. Long-range sensors had detected a massive alien fleet approaching their sector at maximum speed. The way the ships were positioned suggested they were coming to fight. They were broadcasting messages demanding that all humans surrender immediately. Within minutes, Training Station Gamma was on full alert. Jake contacted Earth Command and the nearest human defense ships, but there were very few human military ships in this area. The training station had only light weapons for defense and a handful of small patrol vessels. They were not equipped to fight a real war. The human soldiers, who were still in the middle of their training exercises, were confused when all the alarms started going off. Many of them thought it was part of their simulation until Sergeant Campbell's voice came over the speakers with real fear in it. "This is not a drill," she announced. "All personnel to emergency stations. We have incoming hostile forces. As the Zephyrian fleet dropped out of hyperspace, with their weapons powered up and shields raised, Jake Morrison realized he was in command of 200 barely trained soldiers facing an enemy force that could destroy them easily. The irony was not lost on him that his soldiers had been practicing for war just as a real war arrived at their doorstep. The lead Zephyrian vessel was a massive ship called Righteous Fury. It was 3 times bigger than the entire training station. Admiral Kethver opened communications channels, and his alien face appeared on the main screen. His features were twisted with what humans thought was anger, but was actually fear and determination. "Humans of Training Station Gamma," the Admiral announced in a voice that echoed through the station, "we have observed your preparations for galactic warfare. Your species shows savage training methods and complete disregard for life. This marks you as a threat to all civilized worlds in the galaxy. Surrender immediately, or we will be forced to neutralize this threat permanently." Jake Morrison stared at the alien commander in complete confusion. Preparations for galactic warfare. Savage training methods. The humans had been doing nothing more than standard military exercises that were considered normal throughout human space. Every human military base did the same kind of training. Jake tried to explain over the communication channel. "Admiral, I think there has been a serious misunderstanding. We are conducting routine military training exercises. We have no plans for warfare against anyone. We are members of the Galactic Defense Coalition, just like your people." Admiral Kethver was not convinced. "We have watched your soldiers practice torture and murder for weeks. We have seen them laugh while causing pain and death. We have documented their resistance to injuries that would kill any normal being. Your species prepares for war by actually fighting wars against each other. This level of military preparation can only mean you plan to attack the galaxy." The communication was being broadcast throughout the training station. Soldiers who had been joking and laughing during their exercises just hours before now stared at the screens in shock. They could not understand how their normal training had been interpreted as preparation for galactic conquest. Sergeant Campbell gathered her soldiers in the main assembly area. "Listen carefully," she told them. "These aliens think we are planning to attack the galaxy because they watched us train. They do not understand that we train hard to protect people, not to hurt them. We need to show them that humans are not their enemies." But the Zephyrian fleet was not interested in more talking. They had made up their minds that humans were too dangerous to be allowed to continue existing. Admiral Kethver gave Jake Morrison one final chance to surrender unconditionally. "Your species will be relocated to a prison planet where you can no longer threaten galactic peace. Refuse, and we will destroy your station and everyone on it." Jake knew he could not surrender his people to be imprisoned for crimes they had not committed, but he also knew that fighting was hopeless. His 200 students with training weapons could not defeat 300 warships with real weapons designed to destroy planets. The standoff lasted exactly 14 minutes before everything went completely wrong. Private Steve Williams was manning one of the station's defensive turrets during his first real emergency. He was nervous and trying to adjust the targeting sensors when he accidentally triggered the weapon system. A single plasma bolt streaked toward the Zephyr fleet, striking the shields of a small escort vessel. The energy bolt did no real damage to the alien ship, but Admiral Kefver interpreted it as the opening shot of humanity's campaign to conquer the galaxy. "They fire upon us under a flag of truce," he declared to his fleet. "This proves their barbaric nature and complete lack of honor. All ships move to defensive positions and prepare for battle." What followed was a series of mistakes and misunderstandings that both sides would remember for the rest of their lives. The Zephyrian fleet, expecting fierce resistance from humanity's elite warriors, encountered the most unusual defense they had ever faced. Sergeant Campbell, realizing that normal military tactics were useless against such overwhelming odds, made a decision that would become legendary. "Listen up, soldiers," she announced over the intercom. "We trained for war, and war has found us. Now show these aliens what human soldiers can really do when they fight for something they believe in." The response from the human soldiers was immediate and enthusiastic. They responded with the same energy and determination they had shown during training exercises, but now they knew their lives and the lives of their friends depended on their performance. Danny Clark, who had volunteered for every dangerous training exercise, now volunteered to lead a boarding party against impossible odds. Using nothing but emergency shuttles and determination, he somehow managed to reach a Zephyrian frigate with 12 other soldiers. The aliens, expecting sophisticated military tactics and advanced weapons, found themselves facing humans who fought with improvised weapons and battle cries that sounded like they were having fun. The Zephyrian soldiers on the frigate had never encountered anything like human boarding tactics. The humans moved through the ship like they were playing a game, adapting to alien technology and ship layouts faster than should have been possible. When Danny Clark fought 3 alien soldiers at once using a maintenance tool as a weapon, the aliens concluded that humans were genetically modified super soldiers. Amy Foster organized the station's medical bay to treat both human and alien casualties with the same skill and dedication she had shown during training simulations. When Zephyrian soldiers saw her calmly performing emergency surgery while explosions rocked the station around her, they assumed she had supernatural abilities that allowed her to ignore danger. The human soldiers fought with the same intensity they had shown during training, but now the aliens could see it was completely real. They watched humans continue fighting with injuries that should have put them out of action. They saw humans coordinate complex maneuvers without seeming to communicate with each other. They witnessed humans adapt to rapidly changing battlefield conditions with efficiency that seemed impossible. Private Ryan Murphy, the same soldier who had died during medical training and gotten back up laughing, took shrapnel from an alien energy weapon and kept fighting. He bandaged his wounds quickly and immediately returned to combat. When Zephyrian soldiers saw this, they concluded that humans were either immune to pain or had been genetically modified to ignore injuries that would stop normal beings. Captain Vexthal, monitoring the battle from his command ship, sent increasingly desperate reports to Admiral Keffer. "They fight like creatures from our worst nightmares," he reported. "Their wounded get back up and rejoin the battle immediately. Their medical personnel perform surgery under fire as if explosions were minor annoyances. This species is beyond our understanding or ability to defeat." The battle that followed was unlike anything either side had ever experienced. The Zephyrian fleet moved into attack formation, their massive ships spreading out around the small training station like predators surrounding wounded prey. Admiral Kefver expected a brief fight against desperate humans, who would quickly surrender when they realized how hopeless their situation was. Instead, the humans fought back with tactics that made no sense to alien military thinking. Sergeant Campbell divided her soldiers into small groups and gave each team a different impossible mission. Some groups would attack enemy ships directly. Others would defend the station. A few teams would try to rescue any aliens who got hurt during the fighting. The first major surprise came when Private Kelly Adams led a team of 12 soldiers in a direct assault against a Zephyrian destroyer. Using only a cargo shuttle and handheld weapons, they somehow managed to board the alien ship through its loading bay. The Zephyrian crew expected organized military tactics, but the humans fought like they were improvising everything as they went along. Kelly's team moved through the alien ship using maintenance tunnels and emergency passages that the Zephyrians had forgotten existed. They disabled key systems, rescued alien crew members who were trapped by damage, and somehow took control of the ship's main weapons. When the destroyer suddenly began firing on other Zephyrian ships, Admiral Keffer assumed the humans had advanced computer viruses that could take over alien technology instantly. What actually happened was much simpler. Corporal Mike Turner, who had been a computer repair technician before joining the military, figured out the alien control systems by trial and error. He could not read the alien language, but he understood how machines worked. When he accidentally activated the ship's weapons, he decided to use them to help his friends back on the training station, the Zephyrians. Watching this concluded that humans could master any technology just by looking at it. They had never seen anyone adapt to alien systems so quickly. In their culture, learning new technology took months of careful study and practice. The fact that a human could operate their most advanced weapons after just a few minutes seemed impossible. Meanwhile, back on the training station, the remaining humans were defending their home with creativity that amazed and terrified the alien attackers. Danny Clark had returned from his successful boarding mission and was now leading the defense of the station's main hangar. He organized his soldiers to use the training equipment as weapons against the alien boarding parties. The holographic projectors that created fake enemies during training were reprogrammed to create fake humans that confused the alien attackers. The obstacle course equipment was turned into traps and barriers. Even the medical training dummies were used as decoys to make the aliens waste ammunition shooting at targets that were not real. Dr. Carol Thompson continued treating wounded soldiers and aliens in the medical bay, but now she was doing it during a real battle instead of a simulation. When a Zephyrian energy blast damaged the medical equipment, she performed surgery using improvised tools and emergency lighting. The alien soldiers who saw this could not believe that anyone could work so calmly, while explosions shook the entire station. What the aliens did not understand was that Carol had trained for exactly this situation. Human military medical training prepared doctors to work under the worst possible conditions. The chaos and danger of real combat was actually easier than some of the training scenarios she had practiced. The fighting reached a new level of intensity when the Zephyrians sent assault troops directly to the training station. These were their best soldiers, equipped with advanced armor and weapons designed to defeat any known enemy. They expected to quickly overwhelm the human defenders and capture the station. Instead, they found themselves fighting opponents who seemed to ignore normal military logic. The humans used training areas as battlefields, turning exercise equipment into weapons and obstacles into defensive positions. Sergeant Martinez led a group of soldiers who used the climbing walls and rope courses to attack alien troops from unexpected directions. The most confusing moment came when Private Lisa Morgan challenged a group of Zephyrian soldiers to hand-to-hand combat. The aliens had energy weapons and advanced armor, but Lisa fought them using only martial arts techniques she had learned during training. She moved faster than they could track, used their own weight against them, and somehow defeated 3 armed soldiers using nothing but her hands and feet. The Zephyrian commander of the assault troops sent desperate messages back to Admiral Keffer. "The humans fight without weapons and still win," he reported. "They use their training facilities as weapons. They treat this battle like it is another exercise. This species does not follow any known rules of warfare." Admiral Keffer was becoming increasingly worried about his fleet's ability to defeat the humans. His ships had been designed to fight other civilized species that used predictable tactics and followed established rules of combat. The humans seemed to make up new strategies during the battle and use whatever materials they could find as weapons. Situation became even more complicated when Amy Foster organized teams of humans to rescue Zephyrian soldiers who had been injured during the fighting. The aliens could not understand why their enemies would risk their own lives to save alien wounded. In most galactic conflicts, injured enemies were left to die or taken prisoner for interrogation. But the humans treated wounded Zephyrians exactly the same as wounded humans. They provided medical care, protection from further harm, and even comfort during treatment. When Captain Vex Thul learned that humans were actively protecting his wounded crew members, he began to question everything his fleet had assumed about human nature. The turning point of the battle came when Corporal Brad Wilson led a desperate mission to disable the Zephyrian flagship's main weapons. His team used a combination of captured alien shuttles and pure determination to reach the massive ship. Once aboard, they had to fight through corridors filled with alien soldiers while carrying improvised explosives made from training equipment. Brad's mission should have been impossible. The flagship had the best defenses in the Zephyrian fleet and hundreds of trained soldiers protecting it. But the humans moved through the ship like they had been planning this attack for months. They knew exactly which systems to target and how to avoid the ship's most dangerous defenses. What the Zephyrians did not realize was that the humans were using skills they had learned during training exercises. They had practiced boarding actions, demolition work, and ship assault tactics for weeks. The only difference was that now they were doing it for real instead of as a simulation. When Brad's team successfully disabled the flagship's weapons, Admiral Kethver finally understood that he was facing an enemy unlike any his people had ever encountered. These humans had somehow turned their training into real combat skills so effective that they could defeat superior technology and overwhelming numbers. The most shocking moment came when the disabled flagship began to lose power and drift toward the nearby moon. The ship's engines had been damaged during Brad's mission, and it was about to crash. Admiral Kethver prepared to evacuate his crew and abandon the ship, but instead of celebrating their victory, the humans immediately organized rescue missions to save the alien crew. Jake Morrison personally led a team of shuttles to evacuate Zephyrian sailors from the doomed flagship. They worked frantically to save every alien life they could, even though these same aliens had been trying to kill them just minutes before. Captain Vex Thul watched in amazement as human soldiers risked their lives to rescue his people from the crashing ship. Jake Morrison himself was injured when debris from an explosion hit his shuttle, but he continued the rescue operation until every Zephyrian had been brought to safety. As the flagship crashed into the moon's surface, Admiral Kethver stared at his screens in complete confusion. His fleet had come to destroy humanity because they believed humans were a threat to galactic peace. But these same humans had just sacrificed their own safety to save alien lives. Nothing about this species made sense according to everything. The Zephyrians thought they knew about warfare and military thinking. The battle reached its most desperate moment when Jake Morrison made a decision that would change everything. He realized that the Zephyrian fleet could still destroy the training station at any time they wanted. His soldiers had fought bravely and won several small victories, but they could not defeat 300 warships with just training equipment and determination. Jake gathered all remaining humans who could still fight and told them his plan. They would board every ship they could find and charge directly at the Zephyrian fleet. It looked like a final suicidal attack against impossible odds. But Jake hoped to draw the alien fleet away from the training station while civilian workers escaped in the opposite direction. 50 humans and converted training vessels, cargo shuttles, and captured alien ships prepared for what everyone thought would be their last battle. They had no real weapons except what they had taken from disabled enemy ships. Their vessels were not designed for combat and would not survive long against military warships. To the Zephyrians, this looked like the ultimate proof of everything they feared about human warfare philosophy. These creatures were so dedicated to violence that they would throw their lives away rather than accept defeat. No civilized species in galactic history had ever made such a desperate and hopeless attack. Admiral Kethver watched the approaching human ships on his command screen and felt something he had never experienced before. These humans had already proven they could board his ships, disable his weapons, and rescue his people while fighting for their own survival. Now they were willing to die rather than surrender. The sight of humans charging toward certain death to protect their friends and families broke something inside the Zephyrian commander. He had come here believing that humans were savage warriors who loved violence and conquest. But everything he had seen during this battle suggested something completely different. These humans fought fiercely when attacked, but they also risked their lives to save alien wounded. They used their training to defeat superior technology, but they also showed mercy to defeated enemies. They were willing to die for their friends, but they also tried to prevent unnecessary killing on both sides. Admiral Kethver made a decision that shocked his entire fleet. "Cease fire," he ordered over the fleet communication system. "All ships, stand down immediately. Open communications to the human commander. I must speak with him before this goes any further." Jake Morrison, expecting to receive demands for unconditional surrender, was completely stunned when Admiral Kethver's image appeared on his communication screen. The alien commander's expression had changed completely. Instead of anger and determination, Jake saw something that looked like respect mixed with confusion. "Human commander," the admiral said in a voice much quieter than before, "your species has demonstrated military capabilities that go far beyond our understanding. We came here believing you were preparing for galactic conquest, but your actions during this battle have shown us something we did not expect. We surrender unconditionally to your forces. We ask only that you show mercy to our surviving crews." Silence that followed lasted for nearly a full minute. Jake tried to process what he had just heard while behind him. Sergeant Campbell's voice could be heard whispering, "Did he just surrender to us? How does that even work?" The conversation that followed would be recorded in both human and Zephyrian military academies as one of the most important diplomatic exchanges in galactic history. Jake tried to explain that the humans had been conducting routine training exercises, while Admiral Kethver insisted that no species in the galaxy had ever trained with such incredible intensity and effectiveness. Your soldiers laugh while engaging in combat that would terrify our most experienced veterans, the Admiral explained. They continue fighting with wounds that should be fatal to any normal being. They perform medical procedures under fire as if warfare were their natural environment. Your species treats the most extreme military training as if it were entertainment. Jake began to understand the massive cultural misunderstanding that had led to this conflict. "Admiral," he said carefully, "what you observed was standard military training that every human soldier receives. We train hard because we want to be ready to protect innocent people if danger ever comes. We laugh during training because we trust each other and know we are getting stronger." The Admiral stared at Jake for a long moment before responding. "You mean to tell me that what we observed for weeks was normal preparation? That level of physical and mental conditioning is considered routine for your species?" Jake nodded and asked Sergeant Campbell to join the conversation. She explained how human military training was designed to prepare soldiers for the worst possible situations. "We train in dangerous conditions so that real combat will seem easier by comparison," she said. "We practice medical procedures under stress so we can save lives when it really matters. We learn to work together under pressure so we can protect each other when danger is real." Admiral Kethver listened carefully as Campbell described the philosophy behind human military training. Slowly, he began to understand that everything his people had interpreted as preparation for conquest was actually preparation for defense. The humans trained so hard because they wanted to be ready to protect others, not to attack them. The final revelation came when Private Ryan Murphy, still wearing bandages from the recent battle, volunteered to demonstrate human medical training procedures. He calmly explained how humans learned to treat battlefield injuries while maintaining combat effectiveness. When he showed the Admiral some of the training equipment that created realistic but harmless simulated wounds, the alien commander finally understood what his people had been watching. You train for war by making it a challenge to overcome. Admiral Kethver said slowly, "Your species finds strength through shared hardship and builds morale through teamwork and humor. We interpreted your dedication to excellence as preparation for conquest, but it was actually preparation for protection." Jake Morrison nodded and smiled for the first time since the crisis began. "We train hard so we can protect those who cannot protect themselves," he explained. "Our military exercises are designed to prepare soldiers for the worst possible scenarios, but our ultimate goal is always peace. We want to be so well prepared that fighting will never be necessary." The aftermath of what became known as the training station incident changed human-alien relations throughout the galaxy. Admiral Kethver became one of humanity's strongest supporters, spreading stories throughout Zephyrian space about the species that trained so effectively for war that they accidentally prevented one. Within days, delegations from dozens of alien species arrived at Training Station Gamma to observe human military training methods. They all wanted to understand how humans could prepare for combat so effectively while maintaining such strong moral principles and dedication to protecting others. Admiral Kethver requested permission to establish a permanent Zephyrian observation post at the training station. He wanted his people to learn human training methods and philosophy. Jake Morrison agreed, with the understanding that future observations would include proper cultural context and regular communication between species. Sergeant Campbell was promoted to colonel and assigned to develop the galaxy's first cross-species military training programs. Her first class included volunteers from 12 different alien species who wanted to learn how humans maintained morale and effectiveness under extreme stress. The training was modified to account for different alien physiologies, but the core principles remained the same. The human recruits returned to their exercises with a new understanding of how effective their training methods really were. The story of how Training Station Gamma accidentally defeated an entire alien fleet through the power of good training and strong character became legendary throughout human space. Private Kelly Adams, who had led the successful boarding mission against the Zephyrian destroyer, was awarded the first Galactic Medal of Honor for her actions during the battle. But she always insisted that she had just used the skills that Sergeant Campbell had taught her during training exercises. Years later, when other alien species encountered humanity for the first time, they often requested demonstrations of human military training and philosophy. Without exception, they came away convinced that any species capable of such dedication to preparation and protection was probably best approached as a friend rather than an enemy. The galaxy learned an important lesson from the training station incident. Humans did not train for war because they loved fighting. They trained so effectively because they understood that proper preparation and strong character were the best ways to ensure that fighting would never become necessary. Their dedication to excellence in training was actually a dedication to peace through strength and preparedness.